was just wondering, when we're in front of a clinic, what would you suggest we say to the workers who come out and look at us?
Oh, great.
What exactly should we say?
Yeah. It's like I paid you to say that or something. I didn't. Okay, so there's a few options. Our website is abortionworker.com. Easy, right? Abortionworker.com. And we have a printables tab on our website. And you can print out flyers. I've written open letters to abortion clinic workers. You can print those out. You can hand them out, or you can mail them into the clinic. Because the reality is that, and you can put our address as the return address. Just don't put HCWN, but they won't open it. But because the reality is that they are often told that if they talk to you as a pro-lifer, they'll get fired. So a lot of times they can't come up to you. So either, I say mailing the flyers into the clinic, or just telling them, hey, I just want to let you know, you should check out abortionworker.com. Probably more than 50% of the workers who come to us contact us because they heard our website from a sidewalk counselor. So it's really important that we're just saying that website over and over, abortionworker.com. Because it's like if you have a big red button and they're like, don't push that, and you're like, ugh. Well, it's like that. So they hear that website and they're like, what is that about? And they'll go on and they'll check it out. And just so you know, we feel like we have a pretty comprehensive model of support for abortion clinic workers. We provide several different streams of help to them. We provide transitional financial support for them when they leave, because we don't want someone to recognize that they shouldn't be working in the abortion industry anymore but feel trapped because they need the money. The majority of workers that we have helped are single parents. They're single moms with multiple children. We can't just look at these women and say, just leave. Just trust God, because that is such a foreign concept to most of them. So we have to be there to provide that support for them, that safety net for them. So that's what we do. We also have attorneys that have volunteered in all 50 states to represent these workers if they ever need legal help after they leave the industry. We have emotional support. We provide healing retreats specifically tailored for abortion clinic workers. So just like we have, Project Rachel and awesome groups like that for post-abortive women, this is specifically for the healing of abortion clinic workers. And then, of course, we have employment help. So we're not an employment agency, but we do have professional resume writers on staff that can, kind of tinker with their resume or create a whole new resume, from the ground up. We had one worker write their resume on a napkin, and our resume writer turned it into something really beautiful. We also have recruiters that work with us that can help them with job placement skills, getting connected in the right places, interview help, getting them prepared for an interview, and then, of course, helping them find jobs in their local area. And when we do have workers leave, we often call on the pro-lifers in that area and say, look, if you're a business owner, if you're a business manager, if you're willing to take a chance on this abortion clinic worker, they're willing to take you up on it. And so that's a really great way for us to help them as well. And of course, we provide spiritual help. I'm not doing it personally, but we get them plugged in to groups in their area. We want to get them back into church. And sadly, the majority of workers who have come to us are Catholic. And some of them are fallen away Catholics, but some of them are Sunday Mass going Catholics, receiving the Eucharist Catholics. And so we want to get them back into reconciliation. We want to get them back into the sacraments where it really counts. So that's kind of what we do. Those are all the services that we provide. And it's a relationship-based model. So, we are there to walk on a journey with these workers. And we want to be on this journey with them for the rest of their life, if they'll allow us. And so every client that comes to us, every former worker or abortion doctor that comes to us has an individual one-on-one relationship with a client manager that's assigned to them. So that's what abortionworker.com is all about. Yes.
We actually ran into each other about a year ago for a training we did at Crystal Cathedral.
Oh,
So I run a pregnancy center, a pro-life pregnancy center that started up about a year and a half ago up on Lake Avenue, just down the street from the Planned Parenthood. All these videos have come out right now, and we really feel a sense that God has called us to go out in the community and do more. But what would you think could be, because we have a lot of volunteers and people who are upset about all of this, what's the most effective thing we can do right now, do you think?
So that's a great question. So, regarding the videos, it's great that this information is out there. It's great that the public knows. And, but I think it's important for us to, yeah, we can be outraged, but don't just stop there. That means nothing. Do something about it. Don't just sit there at home and go, this is disgusting, this is terrible. How is this happening? Don't sit there and just complain about it. Be part of the solution. And so, whether that's through your time, whether it's through your talents, whether it's through your treasure, or all three of those things, we have to really turn this outrage into love and mercy. And I think that's really what pregnancy centers can do right now. I think it's really important for us as pro-lifers. So I've gotten messages from women who have watched those videos and are now suicidal because they are so traumatized by what's in that video. And that's not the fault of the video. It's just they may not have ever known that this was really going on. They certainly didn't see what their baby looked like before they had an abortion. It's not like the abortion clinic was like, oh, let me show you a picture of your baby on the ultrasound, right? They were lied to. And that deceit causes trauma when they see the reality of it. And so, I think that we have an amazing opportunity right now in the pro-life movement to really get people plugged in to healing resources and really get people plugged in to different activities that we're having. And I want to say this, how many of you went to the Planned Parenthood protest on the 22nd? Okay, good. So we had ours in Austin, and I don't know, we only had about 300 people there, but, well, no, I was disappointed with it. We should have had more, but anyway, we were out there, and this woman comes up to me, and she goes, excuse me, is this all we're going to be doing? Are we just going to be standing here and praying? Is this all? And I said, yes, we are just going to stand here and invoke the power of the Holy Spirit to come upon us and the women in the clinic and hopefully save their babies and save their souls. That's all we're doing out here today. And so I do encourage you to find your place in the pro-life movement. It's great that you're here today. I know a lot of you are probably very active in the pro-life movement, but for those of you that aren't, or those of you that are like, I just don't know, I don't know, what I can do, there are so many places for you to get plugged in. And, getting plugged into your local pregnancy resource centers and going out to the clinics where these abortions are taking place. So abortions are not happening in the White House. They're not happening in the halls of Congress. They're happening here, in your neighborhoods, in your communities. And they're happening to the women that you love and you care about and the women that you sit down and worship with at church. Do you know that almost 70% of women that seek abortions come from our churches? We have a church problem. This isn't those women having abortions. It's our women having abortions. And we need to be vocal. We need to be constantly giving out a message of love and grace and mercy and compassion in our churches. But we need to be active out there on those sidewalks. We need to go out there and just be praying. Because we know that prayer, that's one of the most important things. That is the most important tool that we have. And if you have kids, get them plugged in to the pro-life movement. They are not too young. Once your kid is 13, they can attend the survivors camp. Grace is coming in a few years, so just get ready. But get them plugged in to resources like that. Teach them why abortion is wrong. And talk to your kids about these issues. Don't just sit there and tell them, you know, don't have sex, don't have sex, don't have sex. Teach them about the beauty of their fertility, about the beauty of their bodies. I mean, don't just be a parent that says, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, but explain it to your kids, because I was taught that way. And not only did I lie on an abortion clinic table, not once, but twice, to take the lives of my own children, I ran an abortion clinic because I didn't get it. I didn't understand the why, and I had no self-value. I had no respect for my body. So teach your kids why and get them plugged in at an early age. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to ask you a question about being out there on the street. Because what I heard you say is that it took repetition for people talking to you, praying over you. Can you say a little bit more about how they spoke to you and what they said to you?
Sure. Yeah, so they really got on my nerves because they were really nice to me. It would have been a lot easier to hate them if they would have been like screaming in my face. They were so dang nice. And, you know, it was just developing a relationship. So, you know, when you go out to the clinic and you're sidewalk counseling and you have a woman going in for an abortion, I mean, you maybe get 15 to 20 seconds, right? So you don't have a lot of time. It's not that way with abortion clinic workers. You have time to develop a relationship with them. So, you know, just as you wouldn't walk up to your friend if you saw him in the grocery store and be like, hey, how you doing? How's your babies? How's your husband? What have you been doing? How's work? I mean, like, you wouldn't talk to them like that, right? You wouldn't just like spew out every question or every piece of information you have. You can develop that relationship with the worker over time. And that's exactly what they did to me. I mean, it was like, you know, every day it was like, hey, Abby, hope you have a good day. And I was like, stop being so nice. And then, you know, and I grew to like them. And that made me really aggravated. But I grew to like them. You know, I remember sitting there, they would say like, hey, Abby, if you ever just want to go and have coffee or grab some dinner, let me know. And I remember sitting in my office one day going, maybe I do want to go have dinner with her. I really like her. I mean, it's crazy, you know, and they would bring me flowers and they were just always so kind. They would remind me, you know, that my inspection on my car was about to go out, and you know, and so it was just kindness. It was just that repetition, that kindness over and over and over again, and always reminding me that if I ever wanted to leave, they would be there to help me, you know, and hearing that over and over again. And, you know, I'm sure, you know, they would have rather had me out years before, but, you know, I think we have to remember that it's hard to remember that this is about God's time, not our time. And, you know, 6, 7, 8 years ago, before I left, I was not ready. I wasn't ready to hear God's voice. I wasn't ready to accept his forgiveness. I wasn't ready. And so I dug my heels in and stayed there. But I knew that they were a safe place to go. You know, when I knew I had to leave, I knew that was a safe place to go. Oh, I also want to say something about sidewalk counseling. You're like, I wanted to ask a question, shut up. But with sidewalk counseling, so sometimes we go out there and we're like, you know, this is never gonna, you know, it's not gonna work. We're not seeing any saves. We haven't seen any saves in forever, blah, blah, blah. Well, the last national conference that I went to at Planned Parenthood was in 2009. April of 2009, and I went to a breakout workshop called Anti-Choice Harassment. That's all of you. And me now, it's crazy. But I went to this workshop, and the woman that was doing the workshop, that was presenting the workshop, she said something really interesting that I'm so glad I remembered this, because I think it's really helpful to those of us who are on the sidewalk to not lose hope. But they said that they looked at the no-show rates for abortion appointments. So, you know, the women that have abortion appointments, but then they don't show up for their appointment for whatever reason. Well, in the abortion industry, generally the no-show rate is between about like 20 and 25%. That's pretty average. But they said that when people are outside on the outside on the sidewalks praying in front of the clinics, they found that the no-show rate goes up to 75%. And so you may go out there and think, we're not even seeing any turnarounds. This isn't even making a difference. But see, you being out there is basically an outward sign of their inward conscience. You are showing them that what they are about to do, what they are thinking about doing, is morally objectionable. And that's, many times, that's what they need to see, because so many times, I don't know, those of you sidewalk counselors, how many of you have heard when a woman comes up to you and says, oh, I came here and I was looking for a sign? Right? That's what they say. They're looking for a sign. They don't get it, but they're looking for a sign from God, and you are that sign. You are I've never been to the dentist and had somebody out there like, don't fill your cavity. Right? Because going to the dentist is totally fine, and there's nothing wrong with going to the dentist. But you're showing them that what they are thinking of doing is wrong, it is a sin, it is morally objectionable, and you are there to provide hope and help. You are there to be their hope, because once they walk in that clinic, there is no hope. And specifically, because I see a lot of priests and sisters in here, we were fortunate to have priests and one sister who would come out, and and the people would call us, the clients would call us when they were outside, and they would go, can you tell me when that priest or that nun is going to leave? Because I don't want to go in while they're out there. I mean, your presence out there makes a difference. It makes a huge difference. And I got to tell you, the first time, I had never seen a religious sister before in my life until I saw one show up outside of our abortion clinic. And I remember the first time she came out there, her name is Sister Marie Bernadette. I remember standing, and I couldn't stop watching her. For I was fascinated. I'd only seen like nuns in movies. I'd never seen one in real life until I was fascinated by this. Like, they really exist. And I remember just standing there and just staring out my window, and I remember we were getting close to the end of the day, and it was like 110 degrees out there, and she was in a brown habit, and she was hot. Her face was red, and she just kept standing there praying. And I remember this woman drove out, this guy and this girl drove out, and I just remember her falling to her knees and weeping. And I remember looking at her and watching her and just thinking, oh my gosh, this is hurting her. I mean, this is so real to her in a way that I couldn't even understand it. But even that moment, her witness out there, it made a difference in my life from inside the clinic. And so please, please go out to the clinics and pray. It is more powerful than you will ever realize.
Thank you. I have my baby girl looks a lot like this young lady here, and I wanted to the men. I don't see a lot of men in the room, but I wouldn't have a baby girl or a little grandchildren if it weren't for the doctor. Excuse me, the doctor that I trusted, my wife. I thought she was going to the doctor for just a checkup, and I happened to be sitting in on it while he was telling her that we had too many children. I have 2 boys and 2 girls. And he was telling her to get an abortion, and he was telling her that if it was his own daughter, that's what he would advise. And I told him, I said, I'm sorry for your daughter. I feel sorry for your daughter. But I wanted to share that, but I also wanted to ask the question. When I was in high school, I was a pre-med student, and I had an opportunity to work in a laboratory. It was a cancer research laboratory. And like you, I didn't really know what it was I was dealing with, but we were getting those parts you were describing. And they were doing research, and we would, make all kinds of concoctions out of those baby parts. I was wondering, how does that happen? How does the pipeline from the procedure to laboratories? They said they were working on cancer research. That's all I knew, but later I came to understand that those were real baby parts. And I was wondering, how does that work?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Thank you for that. So Cecile Richard, did y'all watch her on George Stephanopoulos? Okay. And bless her heart, she sat up there and I lied. And in a nutshell, she sat up there and she said that without fetal tissue research, we would not have the major breakthroughs we have in Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and even the Ebola vaccine was created from fetal tissue. Well, I'll have you know that the Ebola vaccine was derived from stem cells, not from humans, from monkeys, not humans. No fetal tissue, no stem cells from fetal tissue or embryonic tissue was used in the creation of the Ebola vaccine. And to date, you know how many breakthroughs we have seen in the field of cancer, Parkinson's, or Alzheimer's research because of embryonic or fetal stem cells? Zero. That is an antiquated science. And any researcher that is worth their salt will tell you that the future of stem cell research is in adult stem cell research, and that is ethically procured. And so I think it's important for us to know these sorts of facts when we're talking to people, because I think even in the break of all these videos, you know, I've had pro-lifers contact me and say, okay, Abby, I'm pro-life and I think abortion is terrible, but if they're gonna have an abortion anyway, can't we use that tissue for something good? See, their marketing, Planned Parenthood's talking points, has been so good and so deceptive that they've even confused some people who are pro-life. So we need to know the science, we need to know the facts, and a great, great place that you can go to get information is a research company called the Charlotte Lozier Institute, Lozier. It's a part of the Susan B. Anthony list, and they've got some great information out there from leading stem cell researchers talking about how, you know, this embryonic stem cell research and fetal tissue research is just old, it's outdated, and nothing good has come from it. So I encourage you to do your research and find out more about that.
I have a loud voice.
Okay.
Let's read the last one.
Okay, last question. All right. Lucky you.
We get a lot of argument from people that are pro-choice that without Planned Parenthood, they won't receive medical services. Well, medical services are provided in the clinics for women.
Sure. Okay, great question. So Planned Parenthood says that only 3% of their services are abortion services, right? I'm not even sure how they get that number, because if you look at the amount of abortions performed, almost 330,000 every year, and you look at the amount of patients that they see, and this is on their annual report, if you divide those numbers, it actually equals 12%. So I'm not even sure how they're getting the 3% in the first place. But you also need to know this. Planned Parenthood has done some creative math and creative accounting. And so, for example, if you went into a Planned Parenthood clinic and you had a gonorrhea test, a chlamydia test, and 10 packs of birth control pills, that should be one visit with 12 services, right? Everybody agree? Yes, that's how it should be? But at Planned Parenthood, they do this weird unbundling. So it looks like 12 separate visits. And then they do the opposite in abortion. They have one visit with multiple procedure codes. So we don't even know what the real numbers are. But I know based on my previous budget at Planned Parenthood and the budgets of others that I've seen through former workers that have left, it looks like the average is probably between 40 and 50% of the services they provide is abortion. Now, the other things that they do provide things like annual exams, pap smears, STD testing. In fact, the numbers show that about 45% of services provided by Planned Parenthood include STD testing. And that's why it's really important for our pregnancy centers to start providing those STD services and becoming medical clinics for these women and men, because the pregnancy center movement is seeing people generally at the time they get pregnant. We want to see them way before that happens, so that hopefully we can intercept this risky behavior and the lifestyle they're living and change that behavior so that they never end up here. And so that's why there's this really great movement in the pro-life movement to expand our pregnancy care centers to actually perform medical services for women. But they do, they do STD testing, they do contraception. That's a huge part of what they do, and they do some annual exams. They do not do breast health. So, Planned Parenthood, Cecile Richards, again, went on TV and said, if women don't have Planned Parenthood, they're going to not have access to mammograms. Well, in order to have a mammogram machine, you have to have a specific license to operate it. And so the licenses are actually available through public information requests. So we did one to see how many Planned Parenthood facilities had licenses for mammogram machines. You know how many had licenses? None. Not a one. Not one Planned Parenthood clinic in the United States or anywhere has a mammogram machine. In fact, Planned Parenthood is a level 1 breast cancer service center. So that means the only service they can provide for women is to provide manual breast exams. The same sort of breast exam you can do in your shower, the same sort of breast exam that any nurse or physician can perform for you. They cannot provide any treatment. No breast biopsy, no breast ultrasound, and certainly no mammogram. So that's important for us to know, because we're hearing all this propaganda and sometimes we don't know how to respond. And I tell people, Planned Parenthood says that, without Planned Parenthood, where are these women going to go? In most areas, for every one Planned Parenthood, there are at least 12 federally qualified health centers and pro-life health centers that will see women for the same services, but in a life-affirming way. And so this idea, in fact, there's fewer than 700 Planned Parenthood facilities. There are more than 10,000 federally qualified health centers in the United States. And that doesn't include rural public health centers, hospital health systems, pregnancy care clinics. It doesn't even include that. So we don't need Planned Parenthood. Women don't need Planned Parenthood. And, I was going to talk about contraception, but never mind, it's hot and everybody's tired. So a little bit? Okay, well, what I will say is that I believe as a church, and as the only church that is actively speaking out against, as a collective, that is actively speaking out against abortion, I think we have to be just as diligent about speaking out against contraception. Because I don't think we would be here where we are today with this abortion problem we have without the contraceptive mentality that we had before. And I don't know, there's two things that I can post on my Facebook that just get people really fired up. One, when I post about the Girl Scouts, and birth control. There are many pro-life people, there are many Catholics that are using contraceptive methods. And if you don't hear it from your priest, you're going to hear it right here. That goes against the Catholic Church. And there's a reason. You can't say you're pro-life and then support a method that can actually take the life of an unborn human being. You can't do that, and that's what birth control has the ability to do. It works to prevent ovulation, but if ovulation still occurs, which 7 to 10% of the time it does, then it works to make sure that the uterine lining is hostile so that a newly conceived baby won't be able to implant, and that woman will spontaneously abort that conceived child. You can't tell me that being pro-life and supporting contraception fit. They are completely at odds with each other. And so if you don't know anything about this, you need to look it up. Because if you are currently contracepting and you are Catholic, you are going against the Catholic Church. And actually on my website, abbyjohnson.org, abbyjohnson.org, I've got 4 flyers, printable flyers that people can print out and use. One is on contraception and the dangers of contraception. By the way, contraception is labeled as a class 1 carcinogen, in the same category as arsenic and formaldehyde. And yet putting something that dangerous in our body is considered health care? What? Putting something in my body that causes cancer is health care? And it's covered by insurance? That's ridiculous. Yet my insurance doesn't cover maternity care, but it will cover an elective abortion up to 40 weeks, and it will cover all contraceptive methods. Which, by the way, that's why we no longer have that insurance. But that's what we had, and that's what they would cover. So I think it's important that we know these facts. But anyway, on my page, I've got the birth control pamphlet. I have a pamphlet about immodesty. So that was something I definitely lived as a young person. I have a pamphlet about Girl Scouts. So that's a really good way, during Girl Scout cookie time, to just print out that flyer and just, give it to the moms. I mean, you don't have to be like, your cookies support abortion. Don't do that. It's not the kids' fault. They don't know. But many times the parents don't even know. And so this is a really gentle and loving way to give them the information without being in their face about it. And then the first chapter of my book, Unplanned, a condensed version of that, is in brochure form. And so a lot of sidewalk counselors will use that and hand that out to the women that are going in, because it really describes the humanity of the unborn. And there's been some success with passing out that pamphlet. So those resources are available to you anytime.